You know that feeling when someone compliments your work, and instead of saying thank you, your brain immediately screams they have no idea how close I am to being exposed? Yeah. If you've ever sat in a meeting, aced a test, or gotten praised for something you built, and felt a cold flash of dread instead of pride, stay with me, because what's happening in your head isn't insecurity. It's actually one of the most well-documented and misunderstood patterns in psychology. Here's the strange part: nobody tells you. It's not the underachievers who feel like frauds. It's usually the sharpest people in the room, the ones with the degrees, the promotions, the reputation for being the smart one. And that's not a coincidence. That's the whole mechanism. Psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Eames first identified this pattern back in 1978. Studying high-achieving women who, despite clear external evidence of competence, genuinely believed they'd somehow tricked everyone around them. They called it imposter phenomenon. And decades of research since then show it isn't rare. It isn't a personality flaw. It shows up in nearly 70% of people at some point in their lives. And it shows up hardest in people who are by any measure doing extremely well. So why would being smart make you feel like a fraud instead of confident? Here's where it gets interesting. Highly intelligent people are usually excellent pattern recognizers. That's literally what intelligence often is: the ability to spot gaps, inconsistencies, and things that don't add up. The problem is, that same skill turns inward. They don't just notice flaws in a project or an argument. They notice every flaw in themselves. Every corner they cut, every lucky break, every moment they didn't fully understand something before pretending they did. Their brain has receipts, and receipts feel like evidence of guilt, even when they're just being human. There's also something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and most people only know half of it. The famous half is that less competent people often overestimate their ability. But the flip side, the part barely anyone talks about, is that highly competent people frequently underestimate theirs. Because once you know a subject deeply, you become painfully aware of how much you still don't know. Beginners don't see the size of the mountain. Experts see it clearly, which paradoxically makes them feel smaller standing next to it. But wait, there's another layer. A lot of highly intelligent people were praised as kids, specifically for being smart. Not for effort, not for trying, just for the label. You're so smart, you're gifted. And it sounds like a compliment, but psychologically, it quietly plants a landmine. If being smart is your identity, then any failure isn't just a bad outcome. It's proof that the identity was fake all along. So instead of thinking, I made a mistake, the brain jumps straight to, I've been fooling everyone. That's not arrogance. That's actually a fragile self-concept built entirely on performance. And here's the part that explains why it never seems to go away no matter how much success piles up. Success doesn't fix imposter syndrome, because the brain doesn't file success as proof of competence. It files it as a lucky escape. I got away with it this time. Which means every new achievement doesn't build confidence. It just raises the stakes for the next time they think they'll finally get caught. Psychologists call this the imposter cycle. And it's brutal because it's self-sustaining. Prepare obsessively, succeed, feel temporary relief, then immediately discount the win and start worrying about the next one. This is also why so many high performers overwork. Not because they love the grind, but because over-preparation feels like the only insurance policy against being found out. If they just relax and trust their ability, and it turns out they're wrong, that confirms the fear. So they keep control the only way they know how, through relentless effort. From the outside, it looks like ambition. From the inside, it often feels like survival. Now here's something that might reframe this completely. Feeling like a fraud is actually more common in people capable of holding two conflicting truths at once. They know, intellectually, that they're competent. The results are right there, but they also know how much luck, timing, and help from other people played a role. And rather than integrating that as a normal, balanced view of success, which almost always involves some luck, their brain treats it as contradiction. Either you fully earned it, or you're a fake. There's no in-between allowed. But real competence was never supposed to feel like certainty. Confidence and doubt were always meant to coexist in anyone doing something genuinely difficult. It's also worth saying clearly, this isn't the same as low self-esteem. A lot of people dealing with this internally are actually deeply self-aware, thoughtful, even a little perfectionistic in the best and worst ways. They hold themselves to a standard that keeps moving every time they get close to it. That's not weakness. That's a mind that takes its own responsibilities seriously, maybe a little too seriously. So if this is you, here's the honest reframe. The fact that you can see every flaw in your own work isn't proof you're incompetent. It's proof you actually understand the subject well enough to know how deep it goes. Beginners don't feel like frauds because they don't know enough to know what they're missing. You feel like one because you do. That discomfort you keep mistaking for evidence against yourself, it's often just the side effect of actually being good at something. And maybe the goal was never to make the feeling disappear completely. Maybe it's just learning to notice it, name it for what it is, and keep going anyway, without needing the fear to shrink first. Because somewhere between the receipts your brain keeps collecting and the actual results sitting right in front of you, there's a quieter truth. You didn't trick anyone. You just never gave yourself full credit for getting here. If this explains something about yourself you never had words for, hit subscribe. And if you want to understand why some people can't stop over-explaining every single thing they say, that video's going to hit even closer to home. Click it.